All right, things are changing. The family's growing. Obviously, listeners and patrons. But I'm talking about a host team. We've added some folks to it, and some of the folks you've been hearing from, you'll be hearing from a little bit more regularly. In fact, the first part of this episode, there's 2 parts. The first part, you'll get to hang out with 2 of our new regular co-hosts alongside Ellen, who you're very much so used to. And then lastly, the second part of this, Priscilla popping in. You guys remember her. She's my wife. I'm married to her. Talk a little bit about Will Smith, let you know why here. But before that, why don't you gather the kids around? I've got a little special treat for them. More hosts coming your way. It's a fuller podcast, baby. And I'm excited about you hearing from my friends. Hey, parents, gather your kids around right now. And I'm serious. At least if they are 8 or below, go get the damn kids. Oh, sorry if your kid's already there. Today is Experiment with Adobe Premiere Day. I'm
fooling around on this thing.
Today's my day off. I just thought it'd be fun while I learn
to just go ahead and make some
fun stuff
that we could all
smile at, take a break in our day and just,
smile.
So here we go. Quick note, this is a part 1 and part 2 all in one episode. Part 2 has some Chris Rock and Will Smith talk.
It would be silly for me to apologize for anything along the lines of what we choose to talk about.
But I do want to recontextualize real quickly. Over the next few months, I'm going to be introducing some folks on the show that consider close friends. And let's put it this way, I'm
trying
to get to come on here regularly and form like a podcast family, maybe even some spinoffs.
I don't know. I can't think of a fuller way of podcasting. So the whole point of this episode
is to let you get to know them.
We happen to be scheduled to record the night after the Oscars. Well, this is how you'll get to know them.
I'm going to do an anonymous survey. No one's ever going to know this. You and God will. You have to answer in your heart. You may think that I am childish, but I'm going to tell you right now that I do some more speeding up and slowing down voices at the end of this episode. And you actually will have to wait until the end of my outro music. To the very end, you'll have to wait for it. I will let it play 10 seconds of blank time. And you know who's going to listen to the very end of 10 seconds to hear?
Every single one of you.
I can't relate to the people that are just interested in one gender because I am interested in both of them. But then when I met someone and then I had very strong feelings for them, I realized, oh, this is an option and they're also a Christian. And I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed.
And also, gay people are not the ones having abortions. So
we're trying to find them. We're trying to find the babies that we can have.
If abortion is your one issue vote, then you should probably be more gay because a couple of lesbians are not having any abortions. Literally no abortions from the gay community.
Like if I were to pop somebody, I would back up and be like, now fucking say my wife's name. Do it. I'd yell at you and be like, bring it.
All right, one of the more unique episodes thus far in the history of Pastor With No Answers. So I want to introduce to you 3 dear friends of mine. Amy Alderman.
Our story is kind of crazy. So I graduated a year under Joey in high school. Our paths did not cross. We both went to Winthrop College. I went for 2 years and then I got a little bit knocked up. And so then I came home.
A little bit knocked up.
A little bit. I've only been fully knocked up, so I don't know what a little bit is.
So then our paths didn't cross there. Our daughters danced together. His oldest and my youngest are 2 days apart, and they danced in the same studio together.
So you're in the same
Really?
town. You grew up together in the same town. You're like
Yes.
small town folk.
Yes. And
Okay.
finally, our paths crossed at Seacoast Church.
Okay. Cool.
So, like, a little over 10 years now, I think
Okay.
that we've known each other. And really, I think that Joey probably would have dumped me a long time ago, but, like, his wife Priscilla loves me.
let's
So they're
let's
stuck.
be real. Let's be real. Joey wouldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for his wife.
He's got good merit on his own. Like, I mean, he's really good at making you feel uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable or comfortable?
Uncomfortable.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, because that's true.
Liz Miller.
Yeah, I mean, his wife is my best friend, and our kids are like brother cousins pretty much to each other. I moved here in 2008, and I went to Seacoast. My late husband and I joined a small group. Joey was leading it. That's how we met him and his family, and then I started volunteering at the church, and then after that, that led into me working for Seacoast. I loved working for Seacoast. It was such a great job. Part of it was just because I was working with all of like my favorite people. I was Joey's admin. He would always try to make me uncomfortable, or anybody, like you were saying, Amy, he'll make comments and stuff, but he can't make me uncomfortable, so it's entertaining.
Same. Does he check in with you ever to see if he's... I keep calling him out on that. I'm like, Joey, by now you don't have to check in with me the next day if you've hurt my feelings. Like, just, it's a blank. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, he'll give me like a novel back, like, hey, clarification on this,
Yes.
and this. I'm like, I got you. I can read through the lines.
And Ellen Morrow.
Oh, just through the podcast world, because I'm up in Seattle, back with Bad Christian Stuff. There was sort of an overlap a little bit on another podcast that I was co-hosting. So we've never met in real life, which is weird.
That is weird.
I don't feel like
he's tall.
I'm not missing anything. I mean, like, I'm cool with our friendship as is. I don't need to fly out and meet him. We're good. I would love to fly out and hang with Priscilla, though.
So let me tell you how all this got put together. My buddy, his name's Matt Oxley. He helps me out with a lot of stuff. He's on the PWNA team. And he was just doing a little bit of statistical research and found that the percentage of listeners, Pastor with No Answers listeners, 23% female listeners. Now, part of me says, hey, I can't help who listens to my podcast, and I do know a lot of women that do like it. I don't think it's like a unsafe place for women, but I can't help who's listening. But then there's another part of me that says, I've got so many dynamic, wonderful, well-spoken ladies in my life that I honestly would be so delighted to share with you. One of my favorite things about this podcast is like showing off my friends. And so we are going to make a habit out of this. Maybe even it'll branch off into its own podcast. We will see. So here's what we're going to do. You are going to hear from these women, and it's kind of a two-parter. First of all, it's an introduction to Amy, Liz, and you guys know Ellen, but it is also the Will Smith situation. I know you're getting sick and tired of hearing about that. I get it. Well, this is more of I want you to meet some new people that you're going to be hearing a lot from on this podcast.
We happen to be scheduled to record the night after the Oscars. Well, this is how you'll get to know them.
What I really look forward to doing is actually following up with the episode that you're about to listen to. I wasn't present in this conversation. You'll hear it. And so now I've got some questions. I got some questions about these three. Now, this is a lot of content, and I'm looking forward to you hearing it all. There's going to be little beeps in there. We kind of jump around a little bit. So when you hear a beep, we kind of went into another direction. Meet Amy, Liz, Elamuro.
Yeah,
That's fine.
One time when Priscilla and I were working, Joey would he would always stay super calm, but he would get kind of frustrated because it would take an hour. And Amy, you know this, like for everybody to leave the church. So Sunday morning was like our big event. It would take us forever to actually leave the church. And then we'd get to the front and we would still be talking. And then we would get to our cars and we would still be talking. There were several times when Joey would just say, all right, Liz, can you drive Priscilla home? I'm going to just go home now. I'm not mad. I swear I'm not mad, but can you just drive her home? And I was like, no, we're going to leave. We're done. And then there was another time where he literally just turned the car off and got out of the driver's seat. She like showed me the seat and was like, go ahead, and like let me sit there. He's like, I'm just going to go in and work and I'll be back whenever you guys are done.
I love it.
Listen, I can't tell you how many times before we would go over to Joey and Priscilla's house that my husband will be like, before we leave, let's just be clear. We're going to leave at 10. And like, really, we've been invited until like 8, but he'd be like, we're going to leave at 10. Like, I'll give you the bonus hours. Eventually, Joey is just like going to bed. Like, he's upstairs. Good night, guys. Have fun. See you. Yeah, like, I've been over there to like 2, 3 in the morning. I'm like, what am I doing over here this long? And you're right. Joey's like, it's fine. Like, but I'm going to live my life.
He just makes a choice for himself. He's like, and I'm out.
Liz, I just thought of something for the first time ever. Okay. So I'm pretty like I don't like the patriarchy. Okay. That's where I'm coming from.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, some people really do, so we never know. But you were just talking about your best friend, and then you started talking about your wife, and I have literally never thought about the fact that as heterosexuals, we don't just like casually refer to our husbands as our best friends. You have the girl best friend, and then you have your husband. But I've never thought about the fact that if you are married to a woman and then have a woman best friend, like, why isn't your wife your best friend?
It's kind of like a parallel friendship is how I would look at it, because I think you always have to have whoever your best friend is, whether you're male or female, you should have a best friend or somebody super close to you outside of your marriage or your relationship. That's not your significant other. And so for me, that's Priscilla, but Alex and I always will tell each other on like a daily basis, you're my best friend. And she really is. I don't know how people are married to people that they don't consider their best friends, because that feels very like transactional.
I mean, it also kind of is.
But yeah, no, she is for sure like my best friend, but I do see it on a different level.
I'm just thinking now, like, what if I had a guy best friend? That would not fly with my husband. And he's really liberal. I just can't believe I've never thought about this before. Same-sex couples also have same-sex best friends.
And if like that friendship was established before you guys were together, I think that's better. I think if a new friendship is to form later, and it's possibly the opposite sex for us, then it would be like, well, that's interesting. You know?
Yeah, like if I went out and got a guy best friend, my husband
tomorrow.
Like,
that would be a little strange to your husband, possibly. Yeah. But I think those friendships that are established beforehand, they're not threatening.
When did you meet your wife? Alex is her name?
I met her 2 years ago in the very beginning of 2020, right when the pandemic started.
You had a budding relationship during the pandemic?
Yeah. And we became so close because you can't go anywhere and you can't do anything. So we were together 24/7. And my friend at work was like, well, that kind of adds at least 3 or 4 months to your relationship.
Sorry, I know that this is really none of my business. You were in a heterosexual marriage before, and then there was a shift. Or did you meet someone and then there was a shift based on the person you met? Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. I met someone and then there was a shift. And then I realized that was an option that I did not think that I had. And I don't think I would have explored that because of the fact that I do like guys also. I can't relate to the people that are just interested in one gender, because I am interested in both of them. And so I'm attracted to both of them. So for me, wasn't something I necessarily I would say I ever struggled with, because I did like guys. But then when I met someone and then I had very strong feelings for them, I realized this is an option and they're also a Christian. And I like prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And I know I talked to Joey about it too. I just was telling him I met such a peace about it. It took a ton of prayer to really, really do the research and make sure it was me making that choice and not religion making that choice. That relationship ended, and then I met Alex. In between, I was interested in both, very much so open to dating a guy or a girl. It was not like, oh, my husband's dead, I'm going to go date girls now. which is what
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people would perceive that to be like, oh, her husband's dead. She's mourning so much. She could never be with another man. I'm like, if you are straight, there is nothing that's going to make you want to have sex with the gender that you're not attracted to.
So were you attracted to women before the relationship, after Joshua, or no?
I mean, I always appreciate somebody that's incredibly attractive, but I didn't necessarily have any feelings except for this one girl.
Oh,
Christina
there it is.
Radicke. If you're out there, I went to high school with her and she was a cheerleader and she was a junior. I was a freshman and I was enamored by her and I could not figure out why. But she's the only one that I would say that I really was like that interested in, to where if she had like put a move on me, I probably would have been like, oh, hell yeah. The majority, like 98% of the people, have just been so incredibly happy for me that I am happy, because I think they thought that I would never open my heart up again, because I swore up and down I wouldn't. For the people that really love me were just so happy that I was going to open my heart up again. And so they were just like, we don't care who it is. Like, we're just so glad she's happy and she's in love and there's hope for her to still have a relationship, because I'm still so young.
I was going to say, TikTok has made me realize maybe I'm a little bit lesbian. We
think
just
there's
don't
a
know.
spectrum, and I think people go from one end to the other. I think there are people that are very far left and very far right. And I think there's people that are in the middle. There's people that until they meet someone that does it for them, they don't know. Until then, most of us, especially in our culture, are just kind of like homophobic. And we're like,
Now,
danger, danger.
You just survived, I guess, the 10th anniversary of Josh's passing, and he passed in a car accident your two children were in, and they were 2 and 7 weeks.
I didn't know that they were in the car.
Yeah, so it's been 10 years. It feels like it was yesterday, and it also feels like it was another lifetime ago, if that could even make sense.
Wait a minute. Sorry. Did both children survive?
Yes. Both children survived. My son was in one of the.
I was like not ready. I was not ready
They're
for this.
upstairs, probably playing with the Svendsen kids on.
I was getting
Nintendo game.
Sick. Okay,
they're both very much alive and happy and very healthy. My son was in those little car seat carriers that you put into the base, and his car seat came out of the base. So he had a brain bleed, but it was reabsorbed and he's fine. And then my daughter was in her car seat. I always tell people to put those little soft things on the straps where it hits their neck, because she was very much so burned right here from her straps. On her shoulders. But other than that, it is amazing. They are completely fine physically.
I did listen to the spooky stories that Joey was doing.
Oh, yeah.
That was you, right? Where you drove by. Yeah. Was that you?
So we were driving, and my friend Jen was in the front seat with me, and Hannah was in the car seat in the back. And right as we were coming up to that section of the road where his accident had happened, and just like, it was quiet. Nobody was talking in the car. Everybody's just so shocked that anything had just happened. And so there wasn't a ton of conversation happening and all of a sudden, in just like the sweetest, most elated voice, she was just like, "Daddy." And it was right when we got to that spot where the accident happened. I just froze, and like my heart just like went up into my throat. And I looked at Jen, and Jen looked at me, and nobody said anything. And she just kept saying, "Daddy," as if she saw him. And I looked at Jen, and then after probably what felt like a minute, it was probably 10 seconds, Jen said to me, "She did just say that," because she could see in my eyes, did that just happen? And did I hear that right? And she said, "She said that." And I was like, "Did she just say daddy?" And she was like, "She just saw him." And I was like, that is just, it's awesome. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And I think some people might think it's sad. And I just took like such a piece from it. I loved that feeling that she saw him. And I love that he appeared for her. I love that he had that moment for her to see him the first time she crossed over that spot. The last time she saw him dead, and that time she saw him, I guess, on the side of the road waving or smiling, and she was just like shouting for him. But she wasn't sad. She wasn't like turn around or stop, come back. She didn't say anything like that. I don't know. It's like in her brain she knew it wasn't something we would stop for, which in like your normal thought process, you would think, well, would you stop and turn around, or would they say, why aren't you turning around? But that just didn't come out of her mouth. She was satisfied with seeing him, and something in her brain knew that it wasn't something that you could stop for. Like it was just, she was just grateful for the sight. And it just brought me a ton of joy to know that that was what she saw the first time she passed that spot, as opposed to a horrible sound coming out of her mouth.
So cool. Sad and
I feel
cool.
like he was like, if that's the first time you drove, I feel like he was there looking over you.
Yeah, and I think that's why I have such a peace about him not being here anymore. I always tell people I miss him, of course, but the biggest challenge for me is dealing with like the PTSD from that day and the tragedy itself. That's what haunts me and is difficult. It's not so much the part about him being gone, because I just know that I'm going to see him again. I was just kind of thinking that was like his way of saying, I'm okay, because that was the last place she saw him.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, can you guys hear my kid yelling and screaming for me? Well, now he stopped. Perfect. You hear that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but I think it's like the sweetest sound, because I'm past that stage.
Yeah. Forget. It's like child labor, Amy. You forgot what it feels like.
Yeah, you forgot. A friend of mine just today, she's got like an 18-month-old like I do. I don't know. I just am getting that itch. I said, it's a scam. Don't freaking do it. I will tell you. I used to tell people before, like, no, if you can have kids, do it. And now I'm like, oh, I was wrong, and I'm sorry.
Well, no. So Liz, I know they were young, but they still had to like, you still, as you grow up, I mean, forever, they'll probably be processing what that looks like to grow up without their dad. And was it difficult? You were in a relationship for a while, obviously, like before Alex, when that relationship ended, was that like, were you concerned like, oh God, now what's going to happen? Like, is this going to feel like a huge loss to my kids? And
yeah. I dated her several years. She took them on a car ride and kind of just explained to them how much she cared about them, and that even though her and I were not going to be together, it had nothing to do with them, and that she would always be there for them. But I definitely had that concern that that was another loss for them.
mm-hmm.
I also feel like I had so many people surrounding me that were loving on me, that although there was that concern of that loss, they have so many people that love them that I could call at any time of the day or night that would be there for me or them. So I also have to remind myself how much they still have. Although that was their first next loss, they're going to have loss throughout their whole life in different ways. With friendships, when you're friends with a kid one day, giving them the tools to learn how to cope with any kind of a loss is what my job is at that point. But I think that being that first loss was definitely something that I was concerned about.
Now, did they have any questions? Like, okay, you're dating a woman. Were they at all like, what is gay?
That's what I want to know. Yes.
So what's really cool is they were so young, they don't know anything else. If anything, they're more used to seeing a same-sex couple together. Well, I guess I can't really say that because they have plenty of examples of heterosexual couples. As far as their mom goes, they have only seen me with a woman. So for them, it's very natural, very normal, and they don't have that stigma. They're not, when they go to school. And of course, everybody in a school will come share all their thoughts and views that their parents have, but my kids know.
I forget that you guys are in the South. I was just like, what's the problem? Because I'm in Seattle. I'm like, what's the big deal? And they're like, oh, right.
Yeah.
You guys are dealing with a different deck of cards down there.
To forget, like when you're like, oh, you're in the South. And I'm like, oh, is it that weird? So I have like a hard time, like, yeah, your face is like, yes, it's weird.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm not from here. So I'm from all over. My dad was in the military, but the place we lived the longest was Washington, D.C., which is like the melting pot of the world. I saw all kinds of people, and that's what I was used to. I lived in Germany. I lived in Korea. I've been the minority. I've been the majority. And when I moved down here, I was very uncomfortable.
What is going on in North Carolina about, well, we know what's going on with Texas and Florida and that stuff that don't say gay. And
yeah, because if you say gay, then they're going to turn gay. And
right, because as we all know, well, I don't know about you, Liz, but for me, when I learned about gay people, I didn't become gay.
Really?
I mean, is your experience that of people being negative towards you and Alec?
Not really. For us personally, I mean, I have no filter, so please come at me and say something.
Yeah, I was going to say, most people keep to themselves in the South.
But if somebody had something to say, then all right, let's talk. But in all seriousness, I have said that to several people, let's talk. So that way they can understand. And I appreciate when people ask. Your curiosity shows you care and that you're interested, whether you want to admit it or not. And so I would rather give you the correct information than have you just have in your brain what people have fed you or told you. But for me, I mean, I work in a middle school in the South. I have very supportive bosses, coworkers. I have not experienced that necessarily personally, but as a collective, like, person, you know, as a whole, somebody that's in that community, we had parents saying they didn't want the pride flag on the wall, as it's basically a law. We can't have any flags. So we had to take the flag down. So I felt like I had a target on me for several weeks with parents emailing. And so we started GSA, Gay Straight Alliance Club. And so I think those parents are probably like, man, we should have let them keep the flag up, because now they fucking created a club. So now,
now we're
Thursday. Yeah. And my wife has been, but we have so many kids that have come that just finally feel like they have a place that they can be themselves. And I feel like they can go like and breathe and not try to like defend themselves or walk around with a, you know, hard shell because they're going to be teased.
I'm a recovering, very conservative, by the way, very conservative Republican, recovering. Thank you. I think I will always wonder why conservative Christians are just obsessed with other people's sexual sins. And I'm using the quotes for the podcast.
Listen.
Yeah, I don't know why
it's wild.
By gay people. Why do you care so much?
It's like if you're so worried about procreation, like if that's the thing, let's talk about adoption. If you're so worried about the sinful perversion of it, which I don't believe it's perverted, then let's really hone in on the men that are into pornography, child pornography, that are all white conservative males. Right. And also, gay people are not the ones having abortions.
We're trying to find them. We're trying to find the babies that we can have.
If abortion is your one issue vote, you should probably be more gay, because a couple of lesbians are not having any abortions. Literally no abortions from the gay community.
I really don't understand their obsession with it and why they like to just harp on it. And it's almost like this elitist feeling that they have, like, I'm straight and you are.
Yeah, it's a self-righteous, like us versus them.
For sure. And it's like the I love you, but, and I'm like, no, there's no but. Whatever you're going to say after that but is irrelevant, because now I don't believe the first part. It's not an I love you. If you can't want for me and my family all the good things and wonderful things you want for yourself and your family, that's not love. That's not being a Christian.
I also used to always say they should do whatever they want. I just don't agree with it. What does that mean?
Like, why do you get an opinion on my life? Like, okay, just so we all can like be very clear, I do not like to compare being gay when they're like, oh, well, if you're overweight, then you're gluttonous, that's a sin, or you are an alcoholic, that's a sin. I don't ever like to compare the different things that are in the Bible, but for like comparison's sake, imagine if like this heterosexual couple that had an affair, if I exploited your affair almost on the daily or every Sunday, or if it was always in the news, your personal affair, if I constantly exploited that, you would not feel loved by any church. You would be like, why are you so against me? And it's none of your goddamn business. Also, I know that somebody wouldn't be okay with that. They wouldn't want their affair to be out there for everybody to have an opinion about. So then why can they then have like an opinion or comment on who I'm with? And why do you care so much? Because when you say, oh, it's because I want you to go to heaven, like bullshit. That's not why. It's because you like being right and you like being self-righteous. That is
and right is very relative when we're talking about what you've just been taught your whole life. So you feel that you are right. Yeah, I'm so glad that
I'm feel like you have this job to like tell everybody. Like it's my job now to tell you why you're a sinner.
Right.
You know,
it's too bad that you've chosen that lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm in like a very loving monogamous relationship that's very healthy. Oh, it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling for somebody to look at you and see just that, like as if this is my identity. Gay is my identity. Like there's so much more to me. And why do you choose to pinpoint that to be it? Why would you wouldn't have their identity be like they're the black person? Like
right. Well, a lot of people do. A lot of people
and they shouldn't. Shame on them. But it's like the same comparison.
I just realized now that why Joey put us together. It's like it's the bisexual, the overweight one, and the alcoholic. This is a joke to him, I think. Well played, Joey.
We check all the boxes.
The thing that is so crazy to me is that you can either spend your life the way Christ did, which was loving on the marginalized and saying, hey, these are the people that count, or you can spend your life looking to be at the top. That pursuit is just going to be like the be all end all for you. And that's all you're going to have.
Were you guys ever in that place before, or maybe when you were younger, when you thought of gay people, fat people, alcoholics, whatever, as lesser? Have you been there?
Yeah, I have. I think that that's something that we're taught and you hear all the time. So you receive all this information and you internalize it. You think that that's what's true because that's what man is telling you. Humans are telling you this. And it's like, that's not really what God's saying. Like God is not saying this stuff about overweight people or about gay people. It's the church. It's the people that are making all these.
It was a narrative and an interpretation that was told to us. And that's all we got. That's pretty dangerous.
What's a big deal is, so like I've struggled my whole life feeling like I'm unlovable, right? Like I think there's plenty of people that can say they feel that way. And then
Amy, you're the most lovable person ever. So
I was just going to say, I already like you.
Well, thanks. Like one thing I feel, and Priscilla yells at me and says, that is not true, but it is so true.
Priscilla's a liar.
I am so bad at when people are grieving. I always felt like a bumbling idiot when I would be around you for like the first year after Josh passed away.
Girl, I was so highly medicated. I don't even know if you talked to me.
See, there's a lot of people who were like, good. She doesn't know. She doesn't know.
You never were awkward around me. So if that makes you feel better, when I was coherent, you were never awkward around me. You were always funny. I always thought you were just a really funny person. When I think of Amy Alderman, I think super funny.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel like I was just like, all right, I feel awkward. Let's joke around.
Oh, we're the same. Amy, we are the same. We are the same.
You know, someone's grief is personal and it's real and it's so hard. And if you don't know someone well, you don't want to not acknowledge it, but then you don't want to be weird about it. So then I just start to overthink it. It can be my family. And then we haven't talked about this yet, but I have like really bad anxiety. And
girl, what meds are you on?
I'm on citalopram.
No, what am I on? Wellbutrin and Klonopin.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm Lexapro for life.
So, like, do you ever get in those moments where you're like, I can't think about what if I forgot how to swallow because I'll start to drool and be like, I can't swallow? Do you do that?
Yes, I do. It's so stupid.
Yeah, like you can't go to sleep because you're like, what if I don't wake up?
I think you might need to up me like on a nightly basis.
I think you need to up your dose or something.
I know. I'm serious.
I check the doors 50 times, the knobs. I go to the stove and I redo, because I have OCD, and I redo all of the things. And sometimes I'll even turn it on and then turn it off. Just
you have to take pictures.
And Alex will catch me and she's like, "It's fine. Let's go to bed."
They don't get it.
Hold on, doing the light switches.
They don't get it. You know, sometimes with my medication, like my OCD like ebbs and flows. And I was doing really well for a lot of years, not having any tics or rituals or anything like that. And then when I got back on my anti-anxiety medication after I had really, really a traumatic postpartum situation, my anxiety was better because of the medication, but the OCD was like, pew! It's like touch all the things all the time. Yeah.
My therapist was telling me to white knuckle it. And she's like, because if I go in one door, I have to go out the same door. And when we're at school, if I go into the cafeteria one way, my friend that I work with, if everybody's going out the other way and I'm going the opposite direction, they're like, "Where's Liz going?" And she'll be like, "She has to go back out the same door she went in." And so my therapist is like, "You have to white knuckle it." And so when I do white knuckle it, there's like this little celebration inside where I'm like, "I did it."
Yeah. Well, that's good that you can celebrate it because, and you don't go home and lay in bed at night and be like, I have to go back.
Yeah.
Y'all make me feel way normal. I'm like, I don't need more medication. Y'all do.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a whole thing. I have to out loud say to myself, Ellen, you have just turned the oven off. You have just turned the oven off. The oven is off.
I held
that
the candle,
out loud.
I blew it out at school today, and I said, "Haley, is this candle blown out?" And she said, "Yes, Liz." And I said, "Okay, hold on." And I blew it again. There was no flame. And then I set it on the thing and I said, "I need you to just say out loud that the flame is gone." And she was like, "Oh my God, Liz." And I was like, "I'm so afraid I'm going to be the one that burns down the school."
Yeah.
That's reasonable because they're like all on the news and that's kind of scary. Like, yeah.
Just the sound of the door handle over and over and over and over.
But
it's
like,
I get that
really
feeling.
Comforting to know that other people do that also, because I always thought I was the only one, just like that token phrase. I didn't know that other people did that. And I thought I was the only one that would do things twice. If I walk through a door and my shoulder nudges it, I have to do
pretty
it
good.
Again.
Yeah.
I have to do everything twice. I mean, like, it sounds ridiculous. And I didn't think that anybody else did that.
Nope, I have
a OCD too. And Joey and I talked about light switches and stuff before. I'm like, I just get stuck there.
Yeah, because it doesn't feel right. And you have to do it enough times until it feels right. And even if you do it the amount of numbers, like my number is like not even really a true number. It is more like a rhythm or a feeling or a sound. God, this is so crazy to say out loud. But even if I do it the right amount of times, again, my medication has helped and we're all like good now. But even if I complete the sequence, right? If it doesn't have that tactile good feeling right at the end, I got to start all over. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we have to actually go. Like, we got to go. You got to get in the car and go. No. I got to start this whole thing over again. Oh, I found my people. I miss working so much. What I've learned about being a stay-at-home mom is not everyone is cut out for it. I hate it. I loathe it. I resent it. I hate it every single fucking day. I love my kids. I love being with my kids. I refuse to play. I hate playing. It makes my skin crawl. You know what I mean? So I would rather one. Thank you. Well, that's also what I'm finding out. Thanks, TikTok. TikTok has been a very good thing for me.
Well, nobody wants to admit those things because they're so prideful. Nobody wants to admit that. They want to be that perfect Norman Rockwell picture.
I want to work with other adults that I can talk with. Also, start and complete a task. That's all I want. And I have not been able to do that for years. So
because you're too busy switching the lights on and off.
I'm so tired, Amy.
Yeah, I was young and just made it work, just figured it out. And she's actually pretty impressive. Graduated with a 4.0, double major, very prestigious grad school program now. But she's
a trans monster
to try to figure out what causes miscarriages in women.
Well, and aren't you so glad you got kind of knocked up at 20 because look what you produced?
Yeah.
That
An
seems
amazing person.
incredible.
She is. You guys, when I lived with my daughter's father for a year, and then we like went our separate ways, and we weren't angry. He just never really wanted to get married, and he still isn't. He never really wanted children, which he was clear about before I got pregnant. You should definitely wear a condom then. So, because that helps. So
that's how that works.
One day I remember coming home and just being like, hey, I don't want to play house. So if you don't think we're going to get married, like, let me go find someone who will marry me.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I have a baby and I'm 20 and all. I remember when I lived with her dad and we weren't married, but we were trying to do the right thing. We were very well received at the church where I grew up. Once we split up, I became everyone's pet project. Let me fix you and help you and be there for you. Let me buy your kid Christmas presents and help you with this. The minute I started dating someone and I'm going to move in with him.
Red letter.
Literally a vote.
Well, now they're praying for your soul.
Yes. Right. I'm on the newsletter.
Very
that goes
slippery
home,
slope.
that goes through the mail. Like my grandmother goes to this church, guys. So she's seeing on her refrigerators the newsletter that mails out, once a week. And it says, Amy, Neil, make better choices. Like that. We're praying for that. They've decided they're going to have a vote on a Wednesday night prayer meeting, because there'll be enough people there to vote me out of membership. I said, can I just go ahead and remove my membership from this church so that my grandmother isn't sitting in this meeting embarrassed?
What?
I get it. Like, I might not be gay, but I understand, like, that sexual sin makes people act crazy.
Yeah, but not even talking about orientation, just being so obsessed with anything sexual, purity culture, and all of that stuff. And I'm like, all of these churches have all these scandals. They're either pedophiles or they're cheating or they're stealing money. And I'm like, y'all need to fix yourselves before you come at me.
I just feel like we need to do better teaching to worry about the speck in your own eye.
No,
or the plank in your own eye before you're worried about the speck in someone else's. I've worked with kids for a very long time, 1st through 5th grade. And then I did 6th through high school, working with youth at Seacoast, lots of other youth, and just telling them, like, if there's anything that I can impart to you, it's that you have to love yourself and love other people. And you need to see the value in people the way like God sees the value in people. And
the way God sees it, not
how we want to see
or
it.
Church. Yeah.
Yes. And it's like God thinks like I'm beautiful because I'm made in his image. I have value whether I'm 500 pounds or 150 pounds. Either way, I have value. Mm-hmm. And so when you start to hurt what's underneath and pick away at what God has given you as your value, then you're forgetting the cross. Like he died on the cross to give you freedom for freedom's sake. So let's live in freedom. Let's not feel shame and guilt and condemnation. Let's stop putting that on other people. Like there's no need for that. It just gets so old to have to say like, guys, none of that matters. Like you're so missing the mark. If I hear that stupidest saying like, your church should look like a Walmart, not a country club, or like it's a hospital for the broken. No.
Yeah, I'm not broken. Like me being gay, I'm not broken. I'm whole. There was a sermon that I heard within the last couple of years, and they talked about just that, wanting us to feel welcome, and that they used that word broken. It's so insulting. It's like, why? The people that you might want to call broken, maybe they're struggling with something that actually is harming themselves and they need help, or harming somebody else and they need help. But there's so much that is not in those categories that they still feel is classified as broken. Yeah, George painted his nails when he was little because he has an older sister, and the 4 walls that we live in, everything was normal and there was nothing to be said about it. And then he came home from like preschool. He went to either CD or preschool or something, and he had so much of it scraped off, and I could tell. And I was like, buddy, what happened to your nail polish? And he was like, I think a little bit hesitant to tell me, but he took it off because kids said something to him. So he went into the bathroom and tried to pick all of his nail polish off, and it broke my heart. Y'all taught him that. Whoever in that school, who their parents or their environment taught them to make him feel like he couldn't have that nail polish on. And he loved that nail polish. He thought he looked fabulous. Yeah, but it made him feel shameful. He felt like he felt shame. You're like 4 years old and you're already feeling that feeling from other
fingernail
people.
polish. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like, because what are you so afraid of? If somebody else has fingernail polish on, what is that? How does that affect you? That doesn't affect you. Hopefully the conversation will shift a little bit and we can focus on maybe other people, some different thing.
Isn't it the things that we don't talk about end up having like all this weight? But if we would just talk about being gay, straight, trans, bi, it wouldn't be such a big deal. I think it's really interesting that you can grab a handful of people from different backgrounds and different places and like put them together and say like, let's just talk about this subject and just see where it goes. And I love that all three of us can say it's wrong to marginalize anybody for any reason. Also, Liz, I like that you touched on the subject. You're not broken and you're not sinful. I think that the church in general really wants to say, like, it's fine that you're a broken sinner mess. Like, you can come here and get fixed. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't think gay people are a broken mess that need to be fixed.
Yeah, I don't want to go to a church where people are thinking, oh, you're welcome here and I'm your project. I want to go to a church where people celebrate my marriage and are invested in the health of my marriage just as much as they are a heterosexual couple.
I have a very close family member who is in her early 20s. She's recently come out. She ended a long-term relationship with a man. And, she's like, I just want to let y'all know, I'm gay. I was thankful that when she went to my daughter to like say, hey, I'm getting ready to like come out in our family. And like my daughter was like, well, my parents are cool. It's fine. And she was like, no, I know that we could be the ones to be like, you do realize like, we don't care. I mean, I remember telling her, I don't care if you're I didn't care that you were sleeping with this man beforehand. I certainly don't care if you're sleeping with a woman now. Like, what's the difference? Like, it wasn't really any of my business. You know what I mean? Like, did your parents, like, cause your parents are older, Liz, aren't they?
Yeah, like 70. And they're also very right-wing conservative. My dad actually stopped going to the Episcopal Church when they allowed gay priests. And that was when indoctrinated in my brain, love the sinner, hate the sin. And when I told him I was dating a woman and I explained to him my process, because I can't expect him to jump on my train where I'm at. He's going to jump on at the beginning. So I tried to give him a little bit of the story. I was so scared to tell him. I actually emailed him. I couldn't even do it face to face. And when he wrote me back, I like fell to my knees and just cried, because he was like, I am so sorry that you felt like you had to wait that long to tell me. And I'm so sorry that you were worried. I love you so much. And I'm just so happy for you. I would have never thought that he would have done that. And my mom even jokes. She's like, hey, if your dad's cool with it, it can happen to anybody. He loves Alec. He invited her to an oyster roast and I didn't know. And he didn't invite me. They love Alex's family and they just treat it like a normal relationship, and they don't make me feel like this dirty gay person. But that's not everybody's story. And again, I just feel so fortunate to have that be my story. But yeah, my parents were pretty cool.
All right, so diving back into another conversation with them women folk.
Amy and Joey grew up on James Island, and you guys both have that. Give me a reason to fight. I wish you said my name. Like, you guys both have that in you. You kind of just need an excuse.
Listen.
I have experienced it with Joey. I have seen it with Amy. I think it's James Island. I don't think it's your Enneagram or that you grew up in a family of 5. So, you guys are just James Island.
Do you guys want to try this or not? Because I'm totally fine with not.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Now I'm all ready to rumble.
Okay. Cool.
So do I have to tell Ellen I'll punch her in her face again?
Yeah. We're recording.
Meanwhile,
I watched this thing this morning because I didn't see it in real time last night. I got a text from Priscilla in the middle of the night when I went to use the restroom, and
it's always good to have opinions from people who didn't witness the thing that they have an opinion about.
Well, I saw the clips.
Right?
I'll give you a snapshot on my current thoughts this second, and they could change when I see sentiments like, I don't respect Will Smith anymore, and I can't believe he did that. And I'll read some sentiments from my brother that are similar to that. I can't think of people in categories like that anymore. I think hopefully it's maturing, but especially looking at my life and my potential to cause great harm and make really stupid, spontaneous mistakes. I don't look at this for Chris Rock or Will Smith and then have opinions made up about them, good or bad people, or even good or bad actions in this situation. I think we can talk about healthy or unhealthy, and I believe in good and bad. I don't put humans in that category. If he wanted to do something, he could have obviously gone on stage, took the microphone and said, please don't say that, and leave the violence out. But I know what it's like like I said, to make a bad decision. So Amy, I think that are you full on board, not only with him getting on stage, but also bam, like are you on board with the hit too, or the slap?
Like I have no issue with that. I mean, I really don't.
It sounded like earlier in the day you were actually happy about it. Like you revered him for that, correct?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say revered because I don't really revere famous people, but I mean, I saw it and I was like, hell yeah! Like,
that's so funny.
Would you have wanted Dick to do the same thing? Dick being your husband, and yes, I do make fun of his name.
I said that to him. Yes, I said it to him. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I was like, you need to get jealous like that.
No. Joey, do not do that. I'd be so embarrassed.
What does it accomplish? Did it accomplish anything?
Hell yeah. It said, don't talk shit about my wife or I'll smack you too.
All right. So it accomplished, for you, you're saying that it accomplished something personal within their whatever type of marriage that they have. But it didn't accomplish anything for anyone else, correct?
I mean, I think it probably stung a little bit for Chris.
Yeah, it did sting. All right. Just wanted to ask.
Do you
what physical violence accomplishes in each scenario? It's
nice. It was a slap. It was not like he went up there and punched him to the ground and he's like bleeding, and it was a smack.
We would not even be having this discussion, I don't think, if it was in the news that this happened in a bar while they were hanging out after the Oscars. We'd hear about it, but we wouldn't care that much.
To be fair, a non-famous person was spent the night in jail, so.
That's what I was going to say. They would have been escorted out immediately and put in jail.
Right.
Instead, Will Smith stayed and took home an Oscar and took the stage to be able to say what he wanted as long as he wanted to talk.
So y'all think I'm being too soft?
I will say, I love live television, and this is exactly why. I love it. I live for it. I don't know how you guys don't watch it live. Like, I will stay up to watch it because I know things like this might happen, and last night I hit the jackpot with live TV.
Here's the thing. Not as many people saw it as you would think, because nobody watches this award show anymore, which is why so many people think it was staged, which I don't think that it was. Listen, growing up in your lives, if you talk smack or talk back to your parents, like, I don't know what happened to you in your house, but in my house, if you talk back to your parents, you were getting popped for it. If my kids talk back to me...
Define pop. In the face, in the mouth.
I have a very good feeling this conversation is going to take a turn in a minute.
Ellen loves corporal punishment. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
corporal punishment? Yeah, awesome. She loves it. She lives by it. Go ahead,
yeah,
Amy.
Me too.
So
I'll mute Ellen if she tries to deny that.
Yeah, my dad would pop you on the back of the head, pop you in the mouth, whatever's close this. I mean, he always said to us, that is my wife. Like, you will not talk to my wife like that. Dick has said that to my children if they've been disrespectful to me and it's escalated to a certain point. I always
that or
have,
physically.
He's never touched our children, but I have popped my children in the mouth plenty of times.
When you say pop, is that like a Southern term for... like abused?
No. No, it's a pop.
Just asking.
Yeah. I'm actually seeing for the first time that, can I say trailer trash? Amy, you're like...
No, you cannot. I did not grow up in a trailer, thank you. There were none around at all.
But also
So Amy graduated 2 years after me. We grew up in the same...
I graduated 1 year after you.
1 year, that's right. I've known you for a long time as adults. You don't get as scrappy and hardcore as Amy. And then we have Ellen, the PC Seattle nonviolent person. And I love it.
I'm just not going to, like, you're not going to talk to me just any kind of way. They're just not going to do it. And I mean, I feel like Will was the same way. Like, you're not going to talk to my wife just any kind of way and think that's okay.
Yeah,
like, you're just not doing it.
Oh yeah, I do think that he seemed kind of off.
I think that his heart was racing from the moment he like got out of the limo. I saw a tweet that said men would literally rather punch someone on national television before winning an Oscar than go to therapy.
It feels like nobody is saying the dude messed up, said something insensitive about his wife, and Will Smith lost it.
Listen.
That's a very sensible thing to say about any sensible person. And so you could say, you could literally say, you could say he slipped up. Is a mistake. It would be.
Yes, there's no one's saying that this was premeditated, Joey. The point is he got up and physically assaulted someone and then sat down and was clapping and everything's great and everything was normal and he got to have his speech and cry and pretend like this was like, oh, this was like, I'm a vessel of love and blah, blah, blah. And so that is the problem. The problem is not that he punched a comedian, which I think is like pretty bad for comedians. The problem is that there were no consequences at all. What I want to say, I want this on the record. I don't think that a bunch of white people should be talking about a black woman's hair at all.
What about a white woman's hair?
Of what goes into that. It's different, Joey.
I've grown up with black people my whole life. I know they have different hair than white people.
Yeah, but there is an identity to it. Yeah, but you guys are laughing, but like young black girls will get called to the principal office based on the hairstyle that they have, okay? This is more complex than we know.
Where do you live?
I think the alopecia thing is separate, but...
I'm being serious. Where do you live again?
I'm clearly too woke for you guys. And here I am sticking up for data, and you're not even having that. I'll let you guys embarrass yourself, and I'll sit back.
I'm just trying to check. I grew up, I have never seen a black girl go to the office for her hair. And I've gone to school with a lot of black people. Maybe your area of the country
also goes to church with a lot of black people? People who, well, I'm not calling you racist, but I'm saying just because you have black friends or grow up in black communities, it does not mean that you know the intricacies and the complexities of black people. Correct?
Yeah,
correct, but I know families. I don't see blacks as like a homogenous people, but there are cultural things about black people that I appreciate.
Joey, I wanted to just address the fact that this Jada Pinkett Smith head hair issue is a little bit more complex than just a shaved head.
It is.
I'm just saying it's a little more complex. Okay.
All right, so Ellen, white women losing their hair, that's fair game? I mean, what are you saying?
Black women and women both experience alopecia, right?
Yeah.
Both bad to make a joke about. But black women's hair, the culture of black women's hair is a very complex and personal thing that as white women, we haven't really had to deal with. Whenever we're in a podcast or a room with a bunch of white people talking about black people, I get a little bit like, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't be talking about this. We don't know.
So this is going to sound weird.
Listening and not talking. Listening and not talking.
I see. I disagree. This doesn't fall in race with me.
Of course it doesn't, Joey. Of course it doesn't, because you don't see it.
Ellen, this isn't one of those situations that a white person can't see. It was a dude pissed off, Joey, slapped another dude. You could talk about this without color, and the story doesn't change, neither the implications.
I'm saying.
Here's the thing. If you really believe that, Ellen, then you should be super offended that a black man said that joke to a black woman.
How do you know I'm not?
You should be, you haven't said it. You've cried about Will, but I haven't heard you.
I don't believe in physical answer. I don't believe that physical violence is the answer to that kind of thing. But all I'm saying is that this is more complex than just a G.I. Jane joke.
Amy, you're not really taking kindly to all of this. You're kind of pro everything that Will Smith did. I mean,
because she wants to punch me right now is what's.
I do have to say that I can't argue with Ellen's nonviolence posture. I can argue from a standpoint of, well, everyone has the capacity to lose control. At least he was defending his wife. But there's no way from a moral standpoint as a Christian that I can say props for slapping him. But Amy, an elder of our church, you would say,
wow,
slap him.
Okay, I'm so glad you said of your church, because I was like, dude, Joey, what are you
Yeah, I'm an elder.
People's respect just plummeted for Seacoast more. It was already at an all-time low because they have me, and I've been pastoring a church for so many years. Now they're like, and that woman is an elder?
They're like, oh, makes sense. She's friends with Joey.
Well, it sounds like...
I'm not speaking for Seacoast. I'm not speaking for anyone but myself. And I am saying that I feel like that we really love as a society to like over analyze and make things like a way bigger deal than they are. Somebody said something crappy about his wife, and so he popped him one. That's all. We're like, oh,
I think language is really important, and you say popped him one like it's this cute little it's like a cute little thing that happened. It was a violent,
yeah, I agree with Ellen on that one. You seem to be minimizing, like, it wasn't a little pop.
Yeah, I think you're minimizing it a little bit. It was jarring for a lot.
Have you seen the still shot?
Triggering for a lot of people.
I just feel like if you were in a bar and you saw this happen, it would be over in a second and it's done.
And that person would go to jail.
No, they wouldn't, because you know what? They'd be like, oh,
they'd run.
Whatever.
I don't know where
I've seen that stuff happen in bars. They run. Priscilla, do you think this is a race thing at all? You've lived in the South now since
Joey,
2000 and...
I don't want this to go down. I don't want this to go down like the race avenue, only because I'm saying that the black women's hair topic is something that the four of us don't know anything about, and I don't think we should go on about it.
I think that when it comes to like women's hair and their breasts, those are two things that really...
Boobs and hair is all we've got, Joey. I would add a butt, but Amy's right.
I mean, I definitely think that like those two things are really sensitive issues for women. I think one, it is devastating for a woman who has to have a mastectomy. And I think it's devastating for women when you have handfuls of hair falling out and you have no control over it. It's jarring. I mean, look at you, look at my husband, Joey, like y'all, if you were losing hair, you shave your head and it's culturally acceptable. I mean, I have like 87 double chins. If I shave my head, like it's not going to be cute at all.
Ellie, you're not supposed to laugh at fat jokes when it's a fat person talking. In the South, we don't do that shit. No,
I know.
Sorry, in the South, you don't laugh at fat people joking about themselves.
I love that it was 87. It wasn't like 80. It was 87.
Priscilla,
That's what I thought was funny.
I have a problem with the fact that in our society, as much as we have problems with violence, we should equally have an issue with making fun of people and verbal assault. I have a huge issue with his joke was like verbal assault. I want you to be just as upset about that.
Sticks and stones. They taught us that. Sticks and stones.
Yes, but sticks and stones is bullshit, and now we have kids in therapy. I just think like
that saying is ridiculous.
And I think that Jada was verbally assaulted, and my heart hurts for her because I know what that's like.
Yeah, it's almost
and
like
I think that we should chastise.
She's the victim in all of this, by the way.
She is
not the victim.
No, that's a really good point, Amy, because there's just as many instructions in the Bible, for instance, about guarding your words than there is about nonviolence.
If using words can be that devastating and that effective, then why was physical violence necessary to give you, Amy, because you're the one that's talking about loving it. Why was physical violence necessary to give you like good for him? You know what I mean? Like, why couldn't he have used words as well? If words can be that cutting and that devastating, why couldn't
he did use words as well. He did. Yeah. He said, don't put my wife's name in your fucking mouth.
To try and save his ass later.
No, because that's just like, say, like, if I were to pop somebody, I would back up and be like, now fucking say my wife's name. Do it. I'd yell it too, be like, bring it.
He decided to use words later. Yeah. I believe that physical violence
just said, why
is
didn't
only
he use them? He
paired
did.
with this physical violence.
I guess I don't think it's just as simple as he should or shouldn't have or could have handled it a different way. I mean, I do wish he would have just gone up. I actually like that maybe he would have just gone up and made a point that you can level up and make better jokes than cutting people down to make other people laugh. I personally don't love that kind of sarcasm and joking. Seen it done on people I love, and it does infuriate me, and I have wanted to hurt people when they do that. So I understand the emotion behind it. I don't know if we mentioned this. There was so much more to enjoy that was being presented. I really love watching the Oscars, and I actually thought it was a pretty good one this year, minus that. And it took away from...
But you got the best of both worlds. You got the beautiful moments and you got the fight. I mean, it's like going to a NASCAR race and you got a good race and you got a good wreck.
I saw somebody say, I love hockey. movie, and I did not know the Oscars were this good. Have you guys ever been in a physical fight before?
Yes.
Oh, Amy, let's hear about it. Sorry, I get really excited about this dirty stuff.
Oh my
God. I thought you were nonviolent.
Listen.
How are you going to take joy in my story of violence?
I also am a true crime junkie. I'm not going to go murder somebody. But if I met a murderer, I'd want to hear the story. So let's hear it. Does Liz abuse her kids?
I would say Liz is probably right in the middle of it.
I have never gone through anything like that. I want it every day, all day.
Lucky day, man.
It's
no pun
not, because everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So lucky.
And we're cutting up, and I don't know how we got onto the topic of it, but he was like, I don't want anything to do with
I can only imagine what your face looked like.
But somehow it came up. He's like, yeah, I don't do the and I was like, what is this? Like, yeah, my face was like.
I hope he actually said, I don't do the I think that's great.
I don't believe in cancel culture. I believe in accountability.
Yeah, so I feel like instead of him canceling Chris Rock, he held him accountable.
All right, quick note. This is a part
1 and part 2.
All in one episode. Part 2 has some Chris Rock and Will Smith talk. It would be silly
for me to apologize for anything along the lines of what we
choose
to talk about, but I do want to recontextualize real quick. For the next few months, I'm going to be introducing some folks on this, all of who I consider
close friends, and let's put
to get to come on here, Cass family. We happen to be scheduled to record as well. This is how you'll get to know them. You out.
Then why was physical violence necessary to give you, Amy, because you're the one that's talking about loving it. Why was physical violence necessary to give you like a, yeah, good for him? You know what I mean? Like, why couldn't he have used words as well? If words can be that cutting and that devastating, why couldn't
he did use words as well. He did. Yeah. He said, don't put my wife's name in your fucking mouth.
To try and save his ass later.
No, because that's just like, say, like, if I were to pop somebody, I would back up and be like, now fucking say my wife's name. Do it.
He did. Don't put my wife's name in your fucking mouth. To try and save his ass later. No, because that's just like, say, like, if I were to pop somebody, I would back up and be like, now fucking say my wife's name. Do it. To try and save his ass.